Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and the folks from Astak, who usually make cameras, sent me this huge tablet that they just came out with. This is called the Neos, and it's running Android with a huge screen. This is a 15.7 or 15.6 inch screen. It is big. You can fit both hands on it. It is only, though, 1366 by 768 in resolution, which means that some smaller tablets, in fact, many smaller tablets that may even be less expensive, actually have better screen resolution than this big thing does. And what happens is that when you take something with a resolution this low and put it on a screen this big, it just makes everything bigger. It doesn't necessarily make it better. As you can see here, the keyboard is really big. In fact, it's almost too big to type on, so you have to kind of poke around with your fingers to make it work. It will, by the way, go in its in the portrait the portrait mode here. However, there's no way for it to stand up. So when we go around the back of the device, I'll show you that. But there is a motion sensor in here. It just isn't very useful in the sense that you can't use it in the portrait position. But it is rather large, and you can certainly fit a lot of things on the screen. The screen itself has a really odd viewing angle, and that is an issue because if you tilt it just slightly up, you start to lose the screen clarity. And the same can be said if you go in this direction as well. So the screen clarity has to be looked at, or to get the best clarity, you have to kind of look at it head on in order to be able to see it in the best way possible. So I wasn't too happy with that. There was also a few build quality issues. There's some dust under the screen here as well, which I was not very happy to see. So I don't know if this is just a symptom of this being a review unit that they sent out as a sample, or if it's an indicator of some manufacturing problems, but that's something that you may want to keep in mind when you're looking at it. On the back here, you have a huge speaker, and you have another huge speaker on the side here as well. And this thing is rather loud, although the audio quality is lacking. The clarity isn't there. It tends to kind of bounce around in the back of the device here. There's a lot of empty space here, and the sound just kind of resonates inside of that, and you lose some clarity along the way. But it is very loud, so the sound definitely carries. So that's not so bad. On the back here, you've got a couple of ports and adapters. You have a headphone jack here, memory card slot so you can get your pictures off of it, a power cord. And what's interesting about this versus other Android devices is that when it's unplugged, it turns off. There's no battery on board. So this thing is designed to be plugged in at all times. There's a USB port here also that you can plug your memory sticks into, and a gigabit Ethernet plug as well. So if you wanted to plug it into your network, you can do so, but it also has built-in Wi-Fi and 16 gigs of memory on board as well. It runs Jelly Bean 4.1, which is an older version of Android. However, it does have all the Google apps on it, so you don't have to worry about hacking it to get into some of the good stuff. So you have full access to the Google Play Store. This review unit has a bunch of apps that other reviewers are installing on it as we go. So every time I turn it on, there's some new thing to look at. But I did install Asphalt 8 because I was curious. Let me just turn the volume down here to see how it performs. Now I ran some benchmarks, just, some of the Qualcomm benchmarks, and it was rather low. It was on the bottom of the barrel actually. We'll take a look here. Now I'm driving this thing. This is really not the ideal way to go, although you really feel like you're driving a car here. So yeah, the performance isn't too bad. I mean, this is a pretty standard tablet game, but it runs okay. The graphical quality is decent, but it's a little jumpy. Maybe not as decent as you'd see on other ones. And I'm not sure if this dynamically reduces the amount of detail it has based on what processor it's detecting on board, but it's certainly playable from a gaming perspective. I bet you retro games would probably work pretty well on it. So I was really struggling to come up with a use case for the device, and I was really thinking of the Neos as a tablet and not as a smart television. When I started thinking about it as a smart television, it made more sense to me. And again, it's really designed to be a television. It doesn't move very well. It's rather heavy, and it has very loud speakers that can project across a pretty decent sized room like a kitchen. And one of the things that we all almost have in our kitchens are these little tiny televisions that are kind of good enough for something to play in the background, and that's what this can do. And there aren't many smart televisions in this size, right? I mean, there's smart TVs in the in the high end, but not so much in the low end. And if they are smart televisions, they're not running Android and certainly can't play all of the things that an Android device can play. This one can. Not the latest version of Android, of course, but there is a version of Netflix, HBO Go, and YouTube, and every other streaming app you can imagine is out there and working on this thing. And if you have Aereo in your area, you're all set. You can just run it through that over your Wi-Fi. So I think as a television, it works really, really well for that purpose. the price is too high for my liking, especially for a TV of this size. So I'm hoping that they can bring the cost down a little bit, because I think that will make it a lot more attractive. I also see this very useful for people who might struggle with small screens. You know, my 92-year-old grandmother-in-law, she's having a hard time often using a smaller tablet device, but this is a very large screen, very forgiving in making sure that you hit the right key when you're typing on it. So I think that could really be a useful device for her to use as well as a tablet, and being able to get on the internet and do some basic tasks with it. I just wish the screen was a little bit better. But that's the Neos from Astak, and this is Lon Seidman. Thanks for watching.